Hey, soul sister. Here we are for another episode. And I've got Tessa Krone in the house. Tessa, so good to have you here.
Hey, it's great to be here, Junie.
Ah, so good, so good. Tessa and I met recently, and well, I fell in love with Tessa. We talked on the phone. I was just like, oh my God, I love your mission. I love who you are. And she was like, yeah, of course I'll be on your podcast. And she's got a podcast. And let me let you know who Tessa is, because she's a very special person. She's the engine behind and the face of the Open Nesters. And we'll talk about what that is in a moment. She holds an MA in consciousness studies and is a speaker, coach, program and journey facilitator and leader and author, and of course, podcaster. Her offerings are based in her mission to help people open to their most self-expressed, loving selves. Ah, yes. And Tessa's specialties include embodiment from all the senses and elements of our inner and outer lives, ranging from mindfulness, play, dance, and sensory exploration in nature. Yeah. If she had one superpower, it would be to help people, especially as they age, to live more open-hearted lives. That's what we want, Tessa. We all want that. I know we want that, to have more open-hearted lives. And I am just so thrilled with the work that you do. And yes, I'm so glad to have you here. So how are you today, Tessa?
Doing great. I'm struggling with the fact that, and I'm sorry to say this publicly, but we're just chatting. I feel like looking at this, my eyes are not looking at the crowd. And so I'm going to redirect myself again. Are you looking right at my eyes?
Look to your right a teeny bit. A teeny bit. Go a little, right there. That's good. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've never used the iPad before for an interview, so
yeah,
kind of had to figure out the camera. So hi everybody, and hi Junie.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, it's guys, this is the real deal, man. We're real people, figuring out technology. So thanks for figuring this out. And sometimes it's true. It's like, I'm looking at a green dot right now. I'm looking at a green dot and I want to look at you, but if I look at you, and the whole thing is that we bump up against these technological challenges because we both are so dedicated to helping people have extraordinary lives. And so thank you for your transparency. In fact, right before we even started, it's like, we need a pee break because that's our age. We need a pee break, and it's like, okay, let's go pee.
Exactly. And when being playful is a part of what I try to teach about vitality at this stage of life. And so not taking ourselves too seriously helps us in all stages of life, but especially as we get older, because life can be so heavy and serious. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So wherever we can have fun, wherever we can celebrate.
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned dance and play and embodiments and nature, because these are like some really hot tips right out the gate in your bio about how to really feel great in our lives. And so I would really love to just like dive right in right now and just like start from like the open nesters, the engine behind and the face of the open nesters. Please let us know what exactly that means to you, because there's a lot of there's a lot of empty nesters here.
Right.
What is an open nester?
So my distinction with my partner of 33 years, but we also, as you and I discussed, Junie, my husband and I are in an open relationship, polyamorous relationship. So I'll preface it with that. Open nesting, some people will say, oh, but I'm not an open nester. I'm not polyamorous. I'm monogamous, or I'm not looking for that. And open nesting includes that because it includes every type of openness that we can look at in our lives with new views, new eyes, new sensations, a new experience of who we can become. And so it's spiritually, it's trying new adventures, it's trying on a new career, it's looking at the ways we want to embody and encompass our lives in a more vital and creative way. It could be exploring your intellectual capacity in new ways. So it's opening because we're not feeling, in many cases, what the word empty means for people is is sad. So if any of the women out there are just about to become or becoming empty nesters, they can shift something in the language. And that's what we kind of came up with, my husband and I, when our third child left the nest, who actually he's back now. He's 24 and he's doing
They do fly back sometimes.
and so, but actually for me and for my husband, we've welcomed it because we're so transparent with him, even about our other dating. So we don't have limitations. If we need him out, he'll get out, but because it's our home. And yet he's such a beautiful part of, as an adult that came home, that he'll be leaving soon. We welcome the openness of that. We don't have that binary that says, okay, you left the nest, or you only have a certain amount of time. Everyone's so different, and all children and all people, all of us. There's the nuance of connection in the heart that is so essential to helping us all become our best selves. And if me as a mom can do that as an adult, that now becomes more of his friend. He's flying down to Florida because my dad is ill and I'm here in Florida. And he's flying down on Monday and we're going to spend some time together. We actually get Valentine's Day, my youngest son and I, Tuesday together. We're going to go kayaking. And I think to myself, some of these things would have not even been possible if I hadn't let him come home with open arms and open heart, to let him during that pandemic time become who he's made to become. So it's that black and white binary that says finished. Now there's my time. Now get out. Or now I'm sad and now I'm empty. And figuring out that dance with any heart connections in our lives, whether they're our children, our lovers, our friends. It's the openness of feeling and experimenting and expanding and allowing for the sadness of the times of life that usually come with aging as well. Yeah. So it's being open to all of it.
That's so beautiful. There's so many things that you just shared, and oh my God, I was like, where to start? Let's start with just the word open. Just that expansive feeling when you feel open versus contracted. What are there's so many possibilities when we're open to the exploration, to the what ifs, like, what if I try this? Maybe I'll dip my toe here and let me just be with what is, instead of it's either good or bad. It's either we can or we can't. And so I'm hearing that there's this journey, this energy, this yes, if you will, to life in all that it brings. And I also heard you say it's not just about non-monogamy, polyamory, multiple partners or dating. It's about how you do everything and in that open-hearted place. Did I get that right?
Yeah. And also this getting away from binaries in our lives, because once we dismantle the rights and wrongs, which sometimes really trip us up in any of our relationships, we open to the heart connection. We say, okay, what is it that I want to do more? Do I want to connect more? Or do I want to be right more? Like we know in a marriage, that's what they say in therapy. Like, do you want to be right? Or do you want to be married? Or do you... And not that if someone's, our boundaries are just as important. Our no's are just as important as our yeses. And yet we want to lead with curiosity.
Yes. Yes.
And how does it really feel? The sensations in my body when I experience something. So once we're in something, when we can start learning ways to evaluate it, which is the work I do. And also one of my interviews is coming up about Open Deeply with this woman. I'm just reading her book now, Katie Lormy, Open Deeply. And it is about polyamory. But I've been reading it and thinking, oh my God, if more people knew how to open deeply, it shifts the way we can enjoy and find the depth of every moment, the more we practice it.
Yes.
It requires practice, and it sometimes is not comfortable. And like you said, you open by just being a little more curious. Yes, let's see what that brings. Where's that taking me?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, every year I always pick a word for the year and I kind of sit with it, as I'm moving toward the next year. And I'm like, what's my word for next year? What's my word for next year? And this year's word is curiosity. There's a lot of shifting in my business. There's a lot of shifting in my love life. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be in the fear. Well, I need to, the word of the year is caution. Like, what kind of year am I going to have if I have a year of caution and watching? Can I be curious of, where's this going? How is this going to play out? I mean, I have this amazing man in my life right now, and I'm friggin' curious. I am so curious. And, there's that part that's kind of going, well, keep an eye open. It's okay, because we need that part. We need that part from my work, as a shadow worker. We want to be able to have that discernment and that eye to be conscious of our choices. And we don't want to hang our hat there. Otherwise, we're going to be on guard all the time. And so, that 10% is kind of going, well, so far, so good. This is amazing. But I'm not looking for the shoe to drop. I am curious and open and kind of going, wow, yeah. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. Same thing for my business. It's like, this year I'm stretching in a couple of different areas, and it's like, okay, how is this going to play out versus I need to be so careful and it's either going to go badly or it's going to go, it's like, let me stay open to the unfolding and conspire with the universe as it supports me.
Yeah, when we surrender. So it's embracing that paradox again, that is not saying either open or close, rather open to the curiosity and also open to how I experience things right now. And surrendering is a huge part that we don't learn enough to do in our lives, because when we believe that there's going to be a greater power and there will be divine intervention to help us in the path we're meant to be on, it's so hard to surrender. It's hard to surrender to a human being because there's so much discomfort and just breakdowns in communication that require a lot of work. So all the things that I'm willing to talk about, because I think it's the essence of knowing how to also surrender and embracing the paradox of surrender versus choosing my yes and no.
Yeah. So I'm curious because, you've mentioned it can be uncomfortable. Change can be uncomfortable. Surrendering and going on that roller coaster and putting your arms up can be uncomfortable. I'm curious, what do you offer to this woman who's listening, who's going, surrender, openness, I'm in my fear, and this sounds intellectually really great. However, I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling scared to open up my heart again. The idea of even having another partner. And listen, sister, you don't have to have multiple partners. We're just laying down some ideas here. And energetically, this is about how you do everything. And monogamy is a choice. Frankly, I love monogamy. And who knows what the future holds? Curiosity. With that said, what might you offer to this woman who might be like, sounds great. Yeah, Tessa, sure. Open, nesting, being open and surrendering, but I'm scared. And I've gone through so much and my heart has been broken and I'm starting over and my kids have flown and now it's my time. And like, what might you offer to her around that?
Thank you. Small steps of curiosity. So not overwhelmed with the fact that I have to be wide open and surrender everything. But that little tiny playful side, allowing that to come to life. So what was it that we loved when we were younger that had no agenda? So play is a purposeless thing. It's just looking at the way that it actually fuels us, playfulness. And so we look back to the times when we were children and the things that fueled us. And I recommend to people to go to a meetup or find some place where they can meet the people that find those little, whether it's painting or to me, it's dance. I've found new community of dance people that have opened my body. And I will say that if you read any of the books about play, I did my master's and thesis about play and sexuality, but play as an essence, even in corporate America, is about sometimes movement. That's how we shift. So if you're stuck all the time in one place, the first thing to do is move, literally move, get into your somatic body. Sometimes all the talk therapy in the world will never give you what your body will teach you if you get into some somatic work. So if you're really terribly stuck, there are somatic therapists that can help. I can recommend some, but I also think that just getting into, I mean, for me, it's dance, but for someone, it's a sport, or someone, it's just painting because it's a movement, something that moves your body into some place new to create. And or just walking and just movement. It moves us forward. And so that's the first step, I always say, the smallest step. And let it be light and playful. Let it be a dance. Let it be a delight. Let it be a curiosity, and not an overwhelm that you need to start now doing everything or surrender, or you can get online and find the right man. Just play with your own self.
Yeah.
And see with that curiosity that you just talked about this year, what you can bring forward from that playful space. And that's where we open to the magic that we don't even know where it's going to come from.
Love
So
it.
just by being open, that's the surrender. That's already a surrender.
So beautiful. And it starts with seeing like, oh, I'm, or noticing I'm stuck, or noticing I'm in my fear. And then you just got the most powerful antidote. And I'm in total agreement, which is small steps and moving our bodies, not only just for your health, my God, we need to move our bodies, and we can intellectually know so much, and the body keeps the score. The body is holding so much. And there's another thing that you said about being a child, having that wonder, that open surrendering, woohoo, yeah. At this age, certainly for me at this point, because I sprained both of my ankles last year, I have a little PTSD of walking right now. It's like, as I'm walking, I was hiking with my guy the other day, and he's like, be careful of your ankle, be careful of your ankle. And I'm like, trust me, I'm being very mindful, because I now have inside of me some fear around getting hurt again, because it just happens. And of course, every day that goes by and all the things I'm doing to get more comfortable with movement and walking releases me. That's a metaphor for what we've just done in our life. We've had all these experiences. When we were a kid, we were fresh out the gate. And then we had our heart broken. We had people cheat on us. We had people leave us. We had people die on us. So that's why, if you're in this place of trepidation and I'm not so sure I'm ready to surrender, it makes sense. So take the shame off, sister. If you're feeling like, I don't know if I can do this, you can, with gentleness and love and slow stepping it. And the first thing I'm going to just underline, like she just said, is movement. Play some beautiful music, get outside, date yourself. Find what brings you joy and enjoy.
Joy. And joy can hold sadness. It doesn't mean you have to feel happy all the time. I think people have such a hang up about the fact that means that they're going to feel happy. A lot of the dance I do, sometimes I release grief. When my mom passed away, other kind of traumas I've had in my life, I release it through dance because I can cry with it. Releasing emotions is a somatic thing because we allow ourselves to feel. Yeah. Rather than staying stuck. So the emotions will teach us so much. They're in motion. That's why they're called emotion. So that's what we're talking about together. I love that. And the fear is so natural. It's okay to say, I'm not going to be fearless. You can have your fear and still step into little things that you're able to do. So actually, even, for example, any emotion, people ask me a lot when I've been interviewed on podcasts about, because I'm polyamorous, they asked me about the fear of losing my partner and not having that, I don't believe any of us can own anyone else, first of all. So that's, even in monogamy, I think you got to come from that basis that obviously if any of your audience and anyone out there is divorced, you didn't own each other. And people, when in a relationship, there's no ownership of our beings. So the fact that we first start from that point of view, and people ask me about the fear with jealousy, for example, and the fear of loss. And so I like to explain that I hold that in the same space. So my movement and dance with that and play with that is what helps me kind of shift and allow for me to have my experience and then communicate really consciously, which I'm happy to get into talking about that kind of conscious communication. There's a word that I use with my friendships and in my life all the time, and it comes from the world of polyamory, and it's called compersion.
Compersion? Is that what you just said? Compersion? I have not heard that word. Tell us more about compersion. I love it.
So compersion means that you are happy for your partner's happiness, that you can transcend whatever emotions you have in order to know that they need that space to develop their best selves. So it's a really important word in monogamy or friendships as well. Sometimes we're envious we haven't been, or jealous we haven't been invited somewhere, or we're not included in something if it's a friend. I mean, or even with our kids sometimes. I mean, so if we have multiple children, so I always like to say I can have my feelings and I can rise above them and expand to say, what is my real purpose here with that person is to let their heart connect to me when we are connected, and to allow them to be all they can be with others. So it doesn't have to be romantic, but we allow people to grow by overcoming our jealousy, and we don't get rid of it. We just expand beyond it, and we offer compersion for their happiness.
Oh
and
my
so
God.
I love helping people realize that, because sometimes that's the thing that trips us up in a marriage. When we're feeling that ownership and we're feeling like, why am I feeling jealous? Even about him having a regular conversation at the office. Well, if you get tightened and you contract, you're not expanding to allow that person to then figure out if they can just find a friendship, because they're going to start feeling your restriction and your fear. And so it's that expansion, even in monogamy. I think compersion, it can be used there too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, what I'm hearing is the desire, the intention, the openness to have your partner be the best version they can be, the happiest version they could be. And when we are in our fear and our tightness, not only are we going to be feeling a lot of discomfort, that energy is going to keep us from that deep connection, intimacy with our person, with ourselves and with others. So I am curious, since that's a word that we're playing with today, curiosity. Have you always been polyamorous? And if not, how was it for you in the beginning? Like, what opened you up to this? What had you veer into that realm? And how did you handle some of these fear, loss, jealousy issues as you played in this arena? Is that something you're willing to share?
That's what I share about all the time on our podcast. And we interview people. Some of our interviews, as I said, are about polyamory. I will start where I am now. I'm in Florida, and my husband, we've gotten to the point after 15 years of our 33 years of being in an open relationship. And right now he's developing some new relationship energy, and he's had a couple of days away with someone. I actually had one of the guys that I'm dating fly down as well. Wasn't the same timing. We communicate about it. We're very clear with our boundaries about, we actually in polyamory world, we're the primary partner. So we are really, really strong in our communication around that. There's all kinds of levels of polyamory that people don't have, especially the younger generation. Some of your kids out there, by the way, I'm talking to, you may have kids who will call themselves polyamorous, and they're solo polyamorous because they don't believe in monogamy as an identity. For us, it's not that. It's more of the experience that we're going through. We probably could come back to being monogamous at some point, and we were when we were raising kids. And if there are stages we go through that we need each other more, that's okay. So we have pretty clear communication around that. And yet it's like I had some jealousy and around, and naturally arises like, that's a fear. The fear can come up. I'm not there, and he can develop this new relationship. And the way we then can bring it back by giving ourselves, and it's interesting, I'm just reading this Open Deeply, and she talks about epic communication. And I like the way she phrased it, so I'm going to use it. It's emotional, physical, intellectual, and compassionate communication. And if we come into those areas and have conscious discussion based on how we are feeling, and do it from a grounded place, from a respectful, resilient, listening place. And probably many of your guests, I think I've heard of a couple, have talked about whether it's imago therapy, mirroring, listening deeply. These are the communication tools we need with everyone in our lives. So the more we practice it in our partnership, and I've been lucky to do that, I feel like it's expanded all of my relationships.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So communication piece is so essential. It's a learning that we don't get when we're young. I wish we did. I wish we learned how not to interrupt. I wish we learned how to say, wow, this is how I'm feeling, instead of blaming or shaming. I mean, these are the things in nonviolent communications many people have heard about. Like, and then beyond that, there are some people who use ways, Progressive Love Academy is this polyamorous couple who actually coach hundreds of coaches, Progressive Love Academy, and they talk about using your animal or ego by just being aware of it, bringing awareness. I am feeling like I'm a 10 on my animal. I'm going to scream for a few minutes. Can you just hold space for me and handle it? Like,
Yeah.
and so people find different ways to find their communication by consciously explaining that we're not perfect
Yeah.
and we need to get things out.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It just so good. So good. So good. I'm just taking a breath into all that you just shared, because there's a lot there, and I'm just kind of resonating with the women that are listening right now, kind of intuiting like what they might be experiencing right now of what's possible. And I remember many years ago sitting with I don't remember their names anymore. Maybe you would. I was at a festival, Starwood, years ago. And there was a couple talking about polyamory. And I think I was told that they were the ones that coined the phrase. I don't remember. Or maybe they were the ones that brought it on the map. I don't remember. But I remember them talking about it. And I remember thinking, how friggin' scary. And oh my, this was years ago. I'm definitely light years away from that. With that said, the first thought I had was, this is deep personal growth work, because you are confronting yourself. You're confronting what happens if they leave me? What happens if they love someone else? What happens, there's that it was just like, oh my God, if they're not mine, if we're not committed, all the minefields that we can enter into, and how that communication and the deep connection and consciousness that has to be present for a healthy relationship. Oh my God. That was when I was sitting there listening. And so I'm thinking that there might be people going, oh my God. And what I want to just offer, and I'll hand it back to you, is this is not something, in my opinion, you go, okay, I'm going to just go do this. It's like, we need to do the inner work, and we need to check in. And as you're starting to date again, sister, as you're trying to open your heart and say yes to a new relationship, the relationship with yourself, and really kind of navigating your new landscape is so important as you venture into what kind of relationship do I want? And I just, we're close to the end of the podcast right now. But however, I think it's so important to kind of talk for a couple of minutes around, if they're hearing this, and which I hope they are, because they're listening, that they might be like, wow, like, this is interesting. This might be something I'm curious about. And there's so much fear, and oh my God, if I'm in Florida and he's dating somebody else, what if I'm all by myself? And how do you begin this journey? Do you want to add something to what I said, or anything else that comes up for you?
What comes up is that gray divorce, when we turn gray, they say, is the highest divorce rate. So
did you say gray divorce?
Gray divorce is the highest rates of divorce, is when people are turning our ages and above and beyond.
Oh, got it. Gray. I'm like, what does that mean? Got it. Yes.
So in order to be more proactive and having more conscious communication, it's not just about polyamory, it's about creating space. There are the 5 love languages, which people are always tuned into, how can they be better with their partner? But the 6th one I read somewhere before I even started the podcast 3 years ago, is about space. How do we create the space that gives someone the chance to be their best selves? So I continually come back to that. And it's, of course, it's not easy. And it was very gradual and very slow, because we would check in, we would mess up, we would not have anything for a while. We made sure we were intentionally dating ourselves. And so, and me dating myself for the times that I need my space.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things we could talk about in this podcast. I don't even know.
Absolutely. So your podcast is chock full of amazing tips and tools and conversations. And so how can they find you? You've just laid down so many amazing things, and we could talk for hours. They're probably going to want more. I hope they want more. They should want more, not to should on you, but this woman has it going on. Where can they find you?
theopennesters.com, or any, Spotify, Apple podcast, The Open Nesters. And right now I'm actually in Florida. Part of my mission here is to write. I started my first draft of an ebook about friendship, and how we connect, and play is, for example, one of those languages. And the idea that how do we open more deeply and more lightly and in our real authentic selves at this stage of life, to this stage that we can connect through our hearts in many ways. And so this is a beautiful conversation, and it didn't even go into friendship or deeply into polyamory or partnership communication. And yet that's what we discuss in our podcast, along with, do you want to sell your house and, move around the world and be in an RV or gypsy nesters? We've had or be a triathlete. So opening to the stuff that's like, what do I need to do? What's next? What's that? I love that you started this with curiosity. I always say to people, just stay curious. Let me see, rather than, oh no, just let me see.
Yep. Let's put that hat on and see how it feels. Let's put our feet in those shoes. Do I want to walk in them or return them? Exactly.
And if people want a preview of my ebook, I'm putting it in my e-letter now, so they can subscribe. If they go to theopennesters.com and they go into the resources, and they'll see newsletter, sign up. And maybe we can put in the link here. We'd love to have you subscribe and hear some of these languages of friendship that you develop for any partnership. Because if you're not having a friendship with any of the people in your life that you want to love ahead, that's the best way to start, is through deep understanding and friendship and community.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And I love that you brought in the 5 love languages and brought in the 6th of space. It's just so beautiful. Space to be, the best that we can be in our shining spirit, and space to, grovel and go, I'm having a rough day.
Yeah,
Space to go,
I want to cry a lot.
Yeah, that was where I was yesterday. I was like, my dog is on his way out, and I was just like, I'm in a bad place and I need space. Just listen. Just listen as I cry. All right, sister. So beautiful. Thank you for your time. Seriously, this is such a potent message on so many levels for this woman who's starting over. So thank you for the work that you're doing. The links will be in the show notes, so people can find you, theopennesters.com. And again, it'll be in the show notes. And for those of you that are listening and watching, I just encourage you to like and subscribe to the station, share with your soul sisters, and to just stay in curiosity, because it is such a delicious place to be and find out some really special things in life. So that's our episode for today. Thanks again, Tessa.
Amen, sister.
All right. Mwah.